Okay, so today we're going to be creating a value page in our sketchbook. I've already done all of the work on mine. I just need to add colors. So in order to do this, you're going to trace 4 different size circles, or at least 3 different size, and you can duplicate one. I use the outside of this roll of tape for this, and I use the inside of the roll of tape for that one. And then I just use this lid for these 2. They can go off the page if you'd like to. All of these supplies are found on the supply cart. You can also use the bottom or the top of this for different size. Just make sure you return all of the supplies after you use them. So we're going over 3 different shading techniques using Sharpies. So like I said, I used ultra fine and fine point. I used a combination of these. I used fine point for the stippling, and make sure you're not going like this. You're actually drawing meaningful dots. This took me a long time to do. I wasn't just randomly making dots. So as you see up here, this is a sphere. It's always going to be a reflection. So this is actually backwards. So this part is the lightest on mine, and then it's darker on the other side. So imagine this sphere upside down. So here's the darkest part. So I made all of these the same. All right, so what I'm going to show you right now is the color blending part. So you want to choose 2 analogous colors, which you're familiar with from your Zentangled painting. So here's a color wheel. I have my watercolor pencils. You will be getting them from this class pack that is on the front table. So I'm just going to choose 2 colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. Blue, put them in this order, and that way they'll blend well together. So I'm going to do dark blue and green. Sorry, I don't know why that was such a big decision here. And so I'm going to start with the top of this. And just like we layered during our portrait with the skin tones, we're kind of doing the same thing here. So in the middle, I'll kind of blend them so that it'll go from that blue to the green. And basically you just want it to be darker on top and lighter on bottom. So I'm actually leaving an open space right here where no pencil will be, and that'll be the reflection. It may or may not stay white because these are watercolor pencils and it might bleed into that area. So, and then that was all with the pencil on the side, and now I'm going to raise the pencil straight up to get a darker value here. And if you want to do a little bit darker down here, you can do that too. But again, these pencils should be sharpened, and you should be using them on the side. So we're sharpening them using the hand sharpener. You're going to use, I use a large round brush. You don't need a ton of water, you just need a little bit. And then you're just going to blend this. I'll give you the same watercolor effect. You don't want too much water because you don't want this to go outside of the circle. And as long as the colors you chose are analogous, they're going to blend together nicely. And if you find that the area that's supposed to be the darkest isn't as dark as you'd like it, once it's dry you can go over it with some more pencil, but not while it's wet. So I think that looks pretty good. And I'm going to wash the brush out. So the next part of this project, you're going to color in the background of this with the watercolor pencils. So we're going to be doing the same thing using analogous colors. And I'm going to start up here because I don't want to start near this because I don't want these colors to blend together. So we're using the side of the brush, or the side of the pencil, and doing the same thing. And it's pretty abstract. As long as the colors that are bordering the color that you just drew with are analogous, then they'll blend together nicely. So I'm going to do a little bit of yellow next. Some yellow over there. And then I'll move on to my light green and then the dark green. Also, with my block letter value, I just used one of the techniques, which is kind of like a contour shading, or it's actually called hatching. It's just these straight lines, and I did less lines here, and then I added a little bit more until I got to the E. And then when I got to the E, I used the most lines. So I'm going to go back to yellow, going down here, and then maybe this way I'll go. Let's do dark green, and then light blue. And the blue and the yellow are analogous colors, but they will blend together nicely. And then the blue. So notice I'm not adding a ton of colored pencil to this. You can always add more once it's dry, but I'm not overdoing it because you don't want it to get too messy. You want to have control over it. And I need a violet. The blue and the violet are really hard to tell apart. They look very similar, so make sure you read them. All right, then I'm just going to get my brush. Again, not too much water. And then I'm just going to start. This is the fun part. Once I go to the yellow, I'm actually going to wash my brush out first because I don't want those other colors to contaminate that yellow. So this is just to give you an idea of how to practice using watercolor pencils, because you will be using this on your Victorian house. So this doesn't have to be perfect, but I do want you guys to get the idea of shading, because we are going to be doing our shading with the Sharpies, and you are going to be required to use cross-hatching, contour shading, and stippling. So the contour shading is kind of just going along the same shape as the same shape as you're using. So you're just using contour lines. So they're just kind of copying the shape that you drew. So if I was doing contour shading in a window, like here, the shading would go along the side of the window, kind of copying that shape. So again, this doesn't have to be perfect. This is going to be at least a one-day project, and you will be getting points for it when I come back. So you should be spending all day on Thursday working on this, and probably partially Friday on this. I'm going to clean my brush before I go to the yellow. And I'll finish the rest once this dries.